Welcome to Storyland!
Let me take that.
Oh, thanks, Zeke.
This week we're talking about respect while we take a look at the story of some guys who weren't used to being picked first for anything.
Amaya, what is this?
Hey, I'm Amaya.
And I'm Zeke, and we're talking about respect, which is showing others they are important by what you say and do.
So, I've got something for you.
Okay.
What do you see?
Trash.
That's what I thought too, until I saw what my friend Abby does.
Well, do I get to see too?
Absolutely. I think she deserves a drum roll.
Hey, guys.
Hey Abby, we're so excited to have you. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, so I make visuals to help people tell their stories.
What kind of visuals?
It can be anything. It can be a mural or string art or old clothes, and sometimes I make giant sculptures out of trash.
That's cool. Is that what we're doing today?
Actually, I had something else in mind. You gotta really look at your materials, so try it.
It's crinkly.
Yeah, exactly. It's crinkly, kind of like a peony petal is crinkly.
Pirouette?
It's a kind of flower. And so see this cardboard, how it's thick, but it's soft, so you can curve it around like a leaf.
Yeah, I feel it.
Well, how about this one?
Oh, cool. See how in the center, it's like the shape of the inside of an anemone.
And then what?
It's a flower, Z.
Oh, yeah, no, I was thinking some kind of sea creature or something.
We could totally do that too, but today I thought we'd make a recycle bin bouquet.
I love it.
Let's make it!
Hey, this is something you can do at home, so follow along.
So we're gonna start with some of that trash that we dumped out. We've got a piece of an old shopping bag here, and again, you can feel how it can start to feel like a petal.
A petal.
Some old magazine clippings.
What is this gonna be?
That's gonna be the center of a sunflower. With this on top, the inside of a cardboard box, and we're gonna use that egg carton that you found.
Hey!
Pass those on back now that you've felt them. And I'm going to show you what our first step is. We're going to start with this guy because as you can see, we got a yellow bag. So that's going to be our sunflower petals.
Right.
The first thing that you want to do is cut a circle. And then you're going to go through and make all the petals. One cut after another. So you can see that takes a little bit of time. So I went on and cut petals for you guys so we can make flowers even faster today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So you can pick up these, and what we'll start to do is take them, and just like we were feeling that paper, start to bend them like petals of a real flower. Because flowers aren't perfect. They have petals going every which way, and that's exactly what this paper lets you do.
Okay, so bend.
So you can bend them up. And take your next piece and do the same thing.
How's that?
That looks great. That looks to me like a flower out in the wild.
Sweet.
So when you've done that with both of them, then we get to glue them together. So you guys think you're ready to glue?
Yes, I'm ready.
Almost.
So you'll take your bigger one. That's your bottom. So you'll take your bottom flower and use your glue gun. And be careful, it gets really hot.
So remember, you're gonna wanna have an adult for this.
So you just make a ring of glue and press the top flower down so that they stick together. And that's it. You've got your 2 layers of flour right there.
Oh, I'm so excited to make glue. Here you go. Be careful.
Thank you.
Awesome. We'll pass this back down. We're gonna glue some more though. How do you feel?
I think mine's looking really good.
It already looks like a flower, right?
Yeah.
All right. So now we're gonna get to the green part that you asked about. Our little magazine clipping. And you want to do little tiny snips. So you can see that definitely takes a lot of time. So I went on and did that one for you too. And you have this little thing that you can start to do the same thing with. Kind of crunch them around. Don't be afraid to wad it up because, again, flowers aren't exactly perfect. All the little pieces go in all different directions. So you want it to ruffle up. How does it feel?
It's looking good, I think.
So we'll do the same thing with the hot glue gun. And you'll do a tiny little bit of glue.
My turn.
How does it look? There it
the
is.
sunflower.
The
It looks
great.
center of the flower. So there it is. You've got your flower already going. But
Wow.
now, you know how the center of a sunflower has like a big lumpy bit in the middle?
With all the seeds and stuff.
Exactly. So that's what we're going to make with this. So you see how the center of the cardboard has all that lumpy bumpy stuff? That perfectly makes the center of a sunflower where all the seeds are. So we cut it at an angle so we can roll it up like this. This is where it gets fun. You take the big end, roll. So you guys see we're making a big round center for the inside of our sunflower, and it's starting to look all nice and lumpy like the seed part, right?
It's going.
Yep, and then just glue down that little tail. And the next thing you'll do after that is on the flat side. So you guys can see we're gonna glue it down in the center of our flower. Right in the middle of the green bit, like this. There you go. That's the trick. Not too
Okay,
much,
there you
but just enough.
Alrighty.
Yeah, that looks perfect.
Yay.
There's the center of it. All our flower needs is a stem, right?
Right.
So what we have that we use for that, this is some floral wire, which means it's green already on the outside. You can get that at a craft store, but you could use any wire that you guys have at your house. And so what I did is I went on and attached a little piece of cardboard to the top because we're gonna use the end of our egg carton and it has a hole in it. So what we're gonna do is put a little glue right around the bottom. So just like stringing a bead or threading a needle, you're gonna put that wire right through that hole and pull that square down into the base of it. Pull it in nice and snug.
Got it.
Perfect. And then we'll attach it to our flower. So Zeke, while you're doing that, the next step is to put the glue right here on these things that look like petals. And that's what's gonna hold our flower all together. And then your flower goes on like a hat. And that looks great. Perfect glue. There you go. And
Wow.
you can bend your flower any way you want so it looks like it's out in the field and blowing in the breeze. And there it is. Your finished sunflower
Look at
from
that.
trash.
Wow. Wow. This is lovely.
Yeah. It's amazing how you looked at a piece of junk and saw this.
And what's super cool is we can do the same thing with people too.
Like people flowers?
More like if you really see people and get to know them, then you can, see things that are overlooked, see the texture in everybody, see all of their quirks that makes every single person uncommonly beautiful.
And that is exactly where we're going today.
It's time for
The story before the story.
Today, we're in the third book of the New Testament, Luke. But before Luke, in the very beginning, out of a deep, deep love, God made an amazing world. But when people turned away from God, the world was broken.
God made a plan to draw people back into a relationship. So at the right time, God sent a tiny baby to be born in the small town of Bethlehem. God's very own son, Jesus.
When Jesus grew up, he was baptized in the Jordan River. God spoke from heaven. This is my son, and I love him. I am very pleased with him. Which is where our story starts.
Take it away.
Hey everyone, I'm Brian. After 40 days in the wilderness, Jesus began to go from town to town, teaching and healing. Even though he's God's son, he didn't start out in the capital city of Jerusalem. He didn't go to the fine homes of the religious leaders. Instead, Jesus met with ordinary, everyday people on hillsides and by the lake shore. And he chose some of the most unlikely people to be his closest friends and followers. 4 of these men were uneducated fishermen: Peter, Andrew, James, and John. One morning, after a long night of fishing, Peter and his friends had caught exactly 0 fish.
What a drag. Cleaning the nets without a single fish to show for it.
I may fall asleep right here.
This morning, the fishermen weren't alone on the beach. Jesus was standing on the lakeshore, and though it was early, a huge crowd had gathered. They were so eager to get close to Jesus that they jostled and shoved, backing him right up to the water. But instead of pushing back, Jesus simply stepped over into Peter's boat and said,
Go out a little way from shore.
Now, if you're Peter, you're probably feeling a whole bunch of things. On the one hand, after fishing all night, you really want to get home and go to bed. But on the other hand, this unusual teacher has singled you out of the crowd to help him. I mean, you're used to people just ignoring you or wrinkling their noses at the fishy smell you can't get out of your clothes. With all those things racing through his head, Peter did just what Jesus asked and guided the boat a little way out from shore. When Jesus was done speaking, he turned to Peter and said,
Go out into deep water. Let down the nets so you can catch some fish.
Master, we've worked hard all night and haven't caught anything.
Now, even though Peter couldn't help protesting a little, he already respected Jesus' authority.
But because you say so, I will let down the nets.
Peter guided the boat out into deep water, and he and Andrew let down their nets, expecting more disappointment. Instead, whole schools of fish seemed to appear out of nowhere.
Oh, Andrew, pull harder.
The net is going to burst!
Peter called out to his fishing partners back on shore.
James, John, bring the boat.
It took everyone to reel in the nets. Both boats overflowed with floundering fish. Back on shore, Peter was so overwhelmed, he didn't give a single thought to that massive haul of fish. Instead, he threw himself down at Jesus' feet.
Go away from me, Lord. I am a sinful man.
Jesus smiled at the group of ragtag fishermen.
Don't be afraid. From now on, you will fish for people.
The crowd must have been shocked to see Jesus choose these common fishermen as close friends and disciples. Right away, Peter, Andrew, James, and John hauled their boats up on shore. They didn't even stop to clean and sell all those fish. Jesus wasn't finished calling disciples. One day he stopped at a booth where a man named Matthew was collecting taxes. Okay, now, first thing you got to understand, no one talked to a tax collector unless they had to. These men were hired to collect taxes from their own people for the Roman government. They would charge extra to cover their own salaries. I mean, everybody hated them for it. But Jesus walked right up to Matthew.
Come, follow me.
Everyone was shocked, including Matthew. But Matthew didn't hesitate. Something inside him just recognized that Jesus was special. He got up immediately to follow Jesus and even invited Jesus to come to a dinner party at his house. At Matthew's home, Jesus shared a meal with tax collectors and others who were seen as outcasts. The religious leaders were shocked. They grumbled to Jesus' disciples.
Why do you eat and drink with tax collectors and sinners?
Jesus heard what they were saying.
Healthy people don't need a doctor. Sick people do. I have not come to get those who think they are right with God to follow me. I have come to get sinners to turn away from their sins.
Jesus wasn't worried about collecting the right followers or popular friends. Instead, he included everyone. Jesus chose to spend his time with people who saw how much they needed him, instead of those, like the religious leaders, who thought they were too important to need help. The end.
I wonder who Jesus would talk to if he came to my school.
That is a great question.
It's like Jesus' teaching went beyond anything anyone has ever heard before.
So, what's our part in the story?
Every single person ever is made in God's image. That means everybody you meet is important and worthy of love. Just like Jesus, we can choose to include the people who get overlooked and left out.
Maybe people who aren't popular.
Or people who are new or different.
Even people who have messed up.
Yeah, like there's this girl in my school who eats by herself at a table in the corner every day. I could invite her to have lunch with me.
Yeah, and there's this kid in my grade who always gets picked last for stuff. I could have him be my lab partner in science class.
I think you guys have got it. See you next time.
So here's the thing. Include people who are left out.
Hey, do we get to make more flowers?
Oh, already on it.
Wow.
I still cannot wrap my head around how this came from a pile of trash.
You just got to keep your eyes open and take a good look at all the cool things you find.
And the people you meet.
Yeah, there's always something amazing to discover.
Exactly. Thanks for joining us in the Story Lab. See you next time.
Oh, this is awesome.
This is so amazing.
What did you make this out of?
Oh, it's a food box and then a little potato bag
That is
inside the center.
incredible.
And check out, these are the bottoms of an egg carton too.
Hey, welcome to Story Lab. Skylar, I got your beakers.
Oh, thanks. Hey, could you finish this?
Sure.
Awesome. Trade you. This week, we're talking about respect, while we take a look at something amazing Jesus said.
What am I even doing?
Hey, I'm Skylar.
And I'm Sebastian,
We're talking about respect.
which is showing others that they are important by what you say and do.
Okay, gotta ask about the outfit.
Why? What's wrong with it?
Nothing, but I think it's visible from outer space.
I'll admit, stripes and plaid usually don't get along. I wore this in honor of Opposite Day.
Opposite Day is a thing?
Yeah, it's on January 25th, but I just found out about it. To celebrate, I've even made a list of things that don't usually get along.
Let's hear it.
Number 1, cats and dogs. Number 2, heavy metal and polka music. Number 3, pickles and chocolate. Want a bite?
No thanks.
Number 4, water and oil.
Water and oil.
Wait, let's find out what gets along with water and what doesn't. It's time to play.
Will it mix?
We have here salt,
Oil
flour.
and baking soda.
Will our 4 contenders get along with this water and form a solution? Or, like the Batman and the Joker, will they refuse to mix?
A solution is formed when a chemical substance dissolves in water.
Here goes. It appears that our salt and baking soda have completely dissolved in the water.
But it's clear that water and oil do not mix, and neither do flour and water.
Sadly, they just don't get along.
Let's try some more stuff.
Honey, Yep.
Pepper.
Nope. Sprinkles. Yep.
Nope.
Wait a sec. I think the color is dissolving off the sprinkles.
But the actual sprinkles don't mix.
So it's a yeah, no.
Or a no, yep.
Those are 2 words that don't get along.
It's time for
The story before the story.
Today, we're in Matthew, the very first book in the New Testament. But before Matthew, in the very beginning, out of a deep, deep love, God made an amazing world. But when people turned away from God, the world was broken.
God made a plan to draw people back into relationship. So at the right time, God sent a tiny baby to be born in the small town of Bethlehem, God's very own son, Jesus.
When Jesus grew up, he began to travel from town to town, teaching and healing.
And everywhere he went, huge crowds gathered because Jesus spoke with more authority than any other teacher ever.
Which is where our story starts.
Take it away.
Hey everyone, I'm Erica. You know, one day, Jesus sat down on a hillside in Galilee to teach his disciples, but it wasn't long before many people joined the crowd. They were amazed at what Jesus said. His teaching went beyond anything they'd ever heard before.
Blessed are those who are humble. They will be given the earth.
Jesus claimed that people who are sad or humble or hungry or those who suffer for doing what's right are actually blessed. He said his followers are like salt and light. He said that calling someone a fool is just as bad as, get this, murder. It all added up to one thing. What's on the outside matters much less than what's on the inside, what's in your heart. People squeezed closer to hear as Jesus continued.
You have heard that it was said, love your neighbor, hate your enemy. But here is what I tell you. Love your enemies. Pray for those who hurt you.
What? Up to this point, most wise teachers and philosophers had agreed that you should not hurt someone unless they hurt you first. Then you had every right to get back at them. If someone punched you in the mouth and knocked out a tooth, you could punch them and knock out their tooth. If they said something mean to you, then you should shout something just as mean back at them. But Jesus taught a new way of understanding. Love your enemies. Now, it's easy to think of your enemy as the really bad guys, like a supervillain about to destroy the world, or a dangerous criminal on the run, or even the biggest bully on the playground. But your enemies can also be the people you're around every day, like the classmate who cuts ahead of you in line, even your little brother who's super annoying. Loving your enemy is simply loving anyone you don't get along with. That love is more than a warm, fuzzy feeling. You don't have to feel loving to love your enemies. In fact, you probably won't. Instead, you can speak kind words. If someone insults you, choose something kind to say in return. Don't grumble and complain about them behind their backs. In fact, you can show respect. There might even be something nice you can say about that person. You should also do well to them. If someone trips you up on the way to PE class, you can tell them that's not cool. But don't look for ways to get back at them. And most important of all, pray for them. Ask God to care for your enemy and help you forgive them. Prayer might change your enemy, and it can change your own heart too. Speak, do well, pray. When we love our enemies like that, Jesus went on to say,
Then you will be children of your Father who is in heaven.
Jesus kept going. He said, it's easy to be nice to anyone who's nice to you. Anyone can do that. But God gives good gifts like sunshine and rain to provide for everyone, even people who do wrong things. We are made in God's image. And when we show respect and do good things for those who don't treat us well, we're actually showing the world what God is like.
Okay, that's a lot to wrap my brain around.
No kidding.
So,
what's our part in the story?
Well, choosing to love your enemy is actually a really awesome opportunity. It's a way we can work with God to show God's love to the world. Like, maybe a kid on your soccer team keeps making fun of you when you don't block goals. Instead of saying mean things about them, you could cheer for them when they make a great kick.
Or if your teacher loses patience and takes away recess for the whole class, even though it wasn't your fault, You could offer to clean up the classroom.
It makes me think of my little brother. He drives me nuts because he's always borrowing my shirts without asking and getting stains on them.
So what do?
What I want to do is yell at him and mess his stuff up. But I could keep my temper and show him how to get stains out of them.
Yep. You never want to let someone keep hurting you, but you can always respond with kindness.
Exactly. It's not an easy thing to do for sure. But when we follow Jesus, we have the power of God's Spirit to help us speak kind words, do well, and pray for our enemies.
Gotta respect that.
See y'all next time.
Bye, Erica. So here's the thing. Show respect even when you don't get along.
Like plaids and stripes.
Ew, what is this?
Fur. My dog is shedding. Oh, hey, will it mix?
Dog fur.
Nope.
Thanks for joining us in the Story Lab.
We'll see you next time. Beep.
Welcome to Story Lab.
This week, we're talking about respect while we take a look at the story of two sisters and how they spent time with others. Come on, Amara. Hey, I'm Zeke.
And I'm Amaya, and we're talking about respect, which is showing others they're important by what you say and do.
You're important to me.
I'm glad to hear
But
it.
see, that's not enough, is it? Saying it isn't enough. I have to do something to show you're important.
Okay, you could start by showing me what you planned for today.
You're gonna love it.
What is it?
3 guesses.
I need one clue.
It's cold.
We're going skiing?
Do you even know how to ski?
The only time I tried, I sprained my ankle.
Well, we're not going skiing.
I need another clue. We're eating ice cream!
You like ice cream,
I
right?
love ice cream.
Enough to ski on it?
I'd rather eat it.
Great. I've got everything ready.
This is awesome. Where's the ice cream?
I haven't made it yet.
Haven't made it. Doesn't that take like super long to make?
You're totally worth it.
Okay then, I think we better get started.
Let's make it. All you need is heavy whipping cream, vanilla, and sugar. Step 1, pour all the ingredients into the small baggie. 1 cup of heavy whipping cream. 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla. 1 tablespoon of sugar. That is not enough.
I don't think so.
And now, seal the bag.
Okay, but what's the salt for? I don't want salty ice cream.
Okay, this is the really cool part. I mean, actually cool. So you know how you see trucks putting salt on icy roads?
Yeah, I guess I thought it melts the ice or something.
Nope. Salt actually lowers the melting point of ice, which takes us to step 2. Step 2, fill the large bag halfway with ice, then add 1/4 cup of salt. Step 3, place a small bag inside of the large bag. And pour more ice on top. And now we seal the large bag.
Okay, but I still don't get how the salt works.
Adding salt to ice when making ice cream quickly lowers the temperature of the ice, which is needed to make the ice cream solid. Without salt, the outer ice doesn't get cold enough to freeze the ice cream, and it will stay liquid.
So, salt makes the ice colder while it melts.
Yep. And that means the ice cream freezes faster, which makes for smaller ice crystals and fluffier ice cream. Now, we get to step 5. Shake it up.
For how long?
As long as it takes.
But I thought the salt was supposed to make it go faster.
But not that fast.
Okay. Want some help?
No, I'm doing this for you.
Okay.
Could we maybe edit this into a cool montage?
Is it done yet?
It looks pretty soft.
I guess I better keep shaking it then.
Alright. While you do that, it's time for...
The story before the story.
Today, we're in Luke, the 3rd book in the New Testament. But before Luke, in the very beginning, out of a deep, deep love, God made an amazing world. But when people turned away from God, the world was broken.
God made a plan to draw people back into relationship. So, at the right time, God sent a tiny baby to be born in the small town of Bethlehem, God's very own son, Jesus.
When Jesus grew up, he began to travel from town to town, teaching and healing, which is where our story starts.
Take it away.
Hey everyone, you can call me Brian.
Hey, Brian.
One day, as Jesus was walking with his disciples, he arrived in the town of Bethany, where a woman named Martha welcomed him into her home. Martha and her sister Mary and brother Lazarus were close friends and followers of Jesus. They knew what an honor it was for him to visit their home.
Jesus, you sit right here. I know you must be starving after such a long day. Dinner will be ready soon, but here are some raisins and figs, and Mary just brought cool water from the well. Let me know if you need anything at all.
It was common for men to sit at the feet of Jewish rabbis and learn from them, so Lazarus and the other men crowded around to hear Jesus speak, while Martha and Mary worked to prepare a meal for Jesus. Martha must have put every ounce of energy into cooking the best food possible. But after a while, Mary left the kitchen to come and sit down at Jesus' feet just like the men. Now, as the afternoon wore on, Martha kicked into high gear. Boy, she chopped, she roasted, she basted, she baked, she cleaned, and she decorated, flying from one task to the next. And as the temperature in the kitchen grew warmer, so did Martha's temper. I mean, Mary was over there with Jesus doing nothing, while Martha was left to handle the entire meal on her own. Martha probably felt overwhelmed and annoyed. And at last, she couldn't keep quiet anymore.
Does she think dinner is just going to magically appear on the table? Lord.
Everything got quiet. Everyone stared at Martha.
My sister left me to do the work by myself. Don't you care? Tell her to help me.
Everyone waited to see what would happen. Would Jesus be angry with Martha for interrupting? Or would he tell Mary to give up her spot at his feet and go to the kitchen? Instead, Jesus looked at Martha with deep compassion in his eyes. Martha, Martha, you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed. Really, only one thing is needed. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. Jesus wasn't angry with Martha for working hard to make a meal for him. It was important work that had to be done. But Martha had gotten distracted from the most important way of showing love to Jesus, through her time and attention.
So, what did Martha do?
Well, we don't actually know how Martha responded. Maybe she did sit down for a while to listen to Jesus, but we do know that later, Martha showed great faith that Jesus could heal her brother. And she was one of the first to declare that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God.
Well, that's good to know. I mean, I feel like Martha, a lot of times, with school and homework and chores, it's really hard not to worry about things not getting done if I take a break.
Well, you're not alone. We can all lose track of what's really important.
So,
What's our part in the story?
Well, Martha was doing lots of good stuff for Jesus, but she missed spending time with him.
So, the best way to show love for Jesus is by spending time with him first.
Yeah, and there are lots of ways to do that. You can spend time with Jesus by reading scripture and talking with him about what you read.
Yeah, you can pray and talk with Jesus about anything that's on your heart.
You can even spend time with him by listening to worship music.
Or find a quiet place and ask Jesus to be there with you.
Where we spend our time shows what matters most to us. Spending time with Jesus is the most important thing.
And spending time is a great way to show others that they matter too.
Yeah, like when you get home from school, maybe take a couple of minutes to talk to your mom and dad about your day instead of going right into doing your homework.
Or when your little sister asks you to do sidewalk chalk, you can put down your game and hang out with it.
Maybe your parents want you to go visit your grandma at the retirement home. You might be tempted to grumble, but remember that when you take time to listen to her stories, you show how important she really is.
That's a lot to think about.
It sure is. See you next time.
So here's the thing. Take time to show others that they are important. Speaking of which, where's my ice cream?
I finished it up and put it in the freezer.
Do I get to eat it?
Yeah, let's go.
This is actually not salty.
Do you feel important?
Absolutely.
Then my work here is done.
Thanks for joining us in the Story Lab.
See you next time.
Ah, so good.
Welcome to Story Lab. This week, we're talking about respect, while we take a look at the story of someone who needed help in a big way.
Hey, I'm Skylar.
And I'm Sebastian.
We're talking about respect.
Which is showing others that they are important by what you say and do.
In today's story, we're gonna hear about someone with complete power to do impossible things. So, I thought we should try something impossible.
But if it's impossible, then we can't do it.
This is just for fun.
And if we can do it, then it's not impossible.
Okay, seemingly impossible.
Great, let's try it.
Actually, I made a whole list of impossible things.
What's the first one?
Number 1, it is impossible to lick your own elbow.
What? I could totally do that.
Maybe?
I concede.
Number 2, it is impossible to sneeze with your eyes open.
I too did it.
No, you have to sneeze for real. Here, try this.
I too did it.
Still fake.
You try. Eyes closed.
I need a tissue. Number 3, it is impossible to fold a paper in half more than 8 times.
What if it's a really big paper? Okay, all right. Let's go from that side to that side. Go, go, go.
Okay, I'll stay on this side and then we'll come together.
Get over there. Yeah, that side, that side.
Okay.
Okay.
Ready? 1. Okay. Okay, this is 1. Remember, keep
1.
track. Is it straight? Fold it.
Let's hold it down.
We got 5. We got 5. Okay. I think we can get 8. I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe. 6.
Okay.
Karate chop it. Ooh. Hey, 7. 7. Okay, 6. Okay, you got it. Okay. Okay.
7. I really thought we were gonna get 8.
Yeah. Number 4.
Wait! I got one. Number 4. It's impossible to eat just one potato chip. Delicious. See?
Just because you have 0 self-control doesn't mean it's impossible. I can totally eat just one chip. Here. These aren't even really that great. I mean, they're not even potato. They're like mushed corn, rice, and chemicals all toasted up and sampled out. Just tricking our brains into thinking they're salty, crispy, potato.
Is that all?
I got one more.
What is it?
You know how people say you're walking on eggshells around somebody?
Yeah?
Walking on eggshells is a phrase that means to be very careful not to upset someone.
You think it's possible to walk on eggshells without cracking them?
Look how thin that is. Definitely impossible.
But you get to do it anyway.
Wait, what?
You get to walk on eggs.
Let's try it. I don't know about this.
Okay, stand here in front of the egg cartons.
Now, what now?
Just step up on them.
Just walk?
Well, carefully.
Here goes an omelet.
The curved arch of the eggshell distributes pressure evenly all over the egg rather than concentrating it on one point. That's why engineers even use arches in designing buildings and bridges.
How do you feel?
Sorta invincible. Just like this egg. That's exceptional.
It's time for
The story before the story.
Today, we're in Matthew, the first book in the New Testament. But before Matthew, in the very beginning, out of a deep, deep love, God made an amazing world. But when people turned away from God, the world was broken.
God made a plan to draw people back into relationship. So at the right time, God sent a tiny baby to be born in the small town of Bethlehem, God's very own son, Jesus.
When Jesus grew up, he began to travel from town to town, teaching and healing. And the town of Capernaum was like his home base. Everyone there knew about him. Not just the Jewish people, but the Romans too.
Which is where our story starts.
We're ready.
Hey everyone, I'm Erica.
Hey, Erica.
Now, one of those Romans who knew about Jesus was a Roman centurion. This man was important. He commanded at least 100 soldiers who did exactly as ordered with no question.
Forward! March! And halt! You there! Get me a fig and walnut sandwich at once! Yes, sir. With extra goat cheese. Right away, sir.
The centurion was used to being obeyed, but though he was stern, he was also a kind man. He cared about the soldiers under his command and the servants who worked for him. One day, one of the centurion's servants became desperately ill. The man was so sick he couldn't even move. The centurion may have called for the best doctors, but no one could help the man. So, the centurion did the unexpected. He went to a Jewish rabbi, Jesus, and begged for help.
Lord, my servant lies at home and can't move. He's suffering terribly.
Shall I come and heal him?
Now you have to understand, going to the home of a non-Jewish person would make Jesus unclean. It was completely against Jewish custom, but Jesus cared more about the sick man than what people might say. It turned out the centurion did not ask Jesus to come to his home. Instead, he said,
Lord, I am not good enough to have you come into my house. But just say the word and my servant will be healed. I myself am a man under authority. And I have soldiers who obey my orders. I tell this one go and he goes. I tell that one come and he comes.
The centurion knew exactly how true authority works. He knew that when he gave a command, he spoke with the power of the Roman emperor, and it would be carried out instantly. And he believed that Jesus' power and authority were so great that all Jesus had to do was speak a word from anywhere, and the servant would be healed. And you know what? The centurion was right. Jesus turned to the crowd around him and said,
What I'm about to tell you is true. In Israel, I have not found anyone whose faith is so strong.
Jesus made it clear that anyone who has faith can be a part of God's kingdom, not just people who come from the right background. Then Jesus turned to the centurion and spoke the very word the man had hoped to hear.
Go. It will be done just as you believed it would.
Filled with joy, the centurion raced home, and sure enough, his servant ran out to greet him completely whole and healed, just as Jesus had said. The end.
Wow, I mean, like, remote control healing?
The centurion really got it. He had respect for Jesus as the final authority.
So, what's our part in the story?
Well, like we've seen, God can do the impossible with a single word. God is all-powerful and all-loving. That means God deserves our ultimate respect.
God is most important. Our lives are full of all kinds of things, good things, but our time and attention should go to God first.
You can talk to God throughout the day. In the morning when you get up.
Or when you're waiting for the bus or in the car.
Or when you're at the lunch table or at dinner with your family.
Right before you're about to go to bed.
No matter what you face, whether it's a friend who's sick or a tough math test, God is the one who can give you the strength and patience and peace you need to get through your day.
When you make a habit of putting God first, you can do anything.
I think you got it. I'll see y'all next time.
Bye, Erica.
So here's the thing. Remember, God is most important. Okay, I want to do the egg thing.
Hey, don't you need to take off your shoes?
Not too bad.
I think you did maybe a little better than me.
Maybe completely better than you. Thanks for joining us in the Story Lab. We'll see you next time.